Hello, BookTube. I have a Poetry Tuesday for you here. I don't always do Poetry Tuesday. It's a poor, neglected thing. I'll try to do better in the new year, where we read a modern piece of poetry and just talk about it. I leave the text of it down below so that you can teach me things and we can share reading opinions and whatnot. And ordinarily, I like to go to places that poetry snobs don't go. I mean, we sometimes read from collections of poetry that I get in the mail, but otherwise I like to go to non-poetry specialist periodicals that sometimes by sheer anachronism run poems, just to see what a general purpose editor of a literary journal or whatnot, or a history journal, will buy. And go through that and see what we make of those, rather than go to, Poetry Today or The Scene or anything like that. So the thing we're going to look at today is a poem that I found in the new TLS. But that is a perfect opportunity to talk about the TLS because it's new. Look at that. Look what it looks like. It's wide open. With a new, this is the first issue of an entirely new design. So you have a different header there, but also different page outlines. Look at that. Red and blue ink on the middle there. Page attributions. No author page. The author instead are identified with each page. It's very different looking. I like it. I really do. And I ordinarily don't like things like that. And on top of that, this is a special issue. This has a number of articles devoted to George Eliot. So Steve was already in Seventh Heaven. But then for the literary criticism, under the literary criticism having Francesca Wade does a piece on the book reviews that Virginia Woolf wrote for the TLS over the decades. So how wonderful is that? And it's so good. The piece is so good. Wade writes that Woolf's loyalty was always remained with her audience, whom she imagined as, quote, busy people catching trains in the morning or tired people coming home in the evening. When she came to collect her reviews and essays into a book in 1925, she called it The Common Reader. She was not averse to the occasional hatchet job, and then they quote Virginia Woolf, "My real delight in reviewing is to say nasty things." But she insisted that praise ought to have the last word and the weightiest. This was not to be saccharine. She despaired that most reviews were too short and too positive, but enthusiasm, she wrote, is the lifeblood of criticism. Her own reviewing, she mused in her diary, was an act of, quote, I love this, testifying before I die to the great fun and pleasure my habit of reading has given me. Yes, yes, testifying before you die. Yes, absolutely. Her evident joy courses irresistibly through these pieces. I think this is there's a new book called Genius in Ink, collected book writing of Virginia Woolf. I think it's very, very short collection. I don't think it's anything like 1,000 pages long, and I don't think it's got an American publisher, so I'm going to look into it, but it drives me crazy to think that riffraff in the UK will be able to buy this thing, but not me. Woolf's writing imparts a remarkable sense of how it feels to read. Her exhilaration on closing Jane Eyre and feeling that we have parted from the most singular and eloquent woman, met by chance upon a Yorkshire hillside, who has gone with us for a time and told us the whole story of her life, and so on. That's just wonderful. This is an appreciation. I think it's from the book, which is called, this is from the introduction of a book called Genius and Ink, which is published by the TLS, so it would certainly not be published in America. And now Steve wants me wanty. I've been calling for a general collection of Virginia Woolf's book essays for a long time. Well, this has lots of other stuff too, just tons and tons of stuff in here. But it also has a poem. And it's going to be our poem for today, and it's going to be our poem, I confess, because I want to know what you make of it. That often happens in Poetry Tuesday, where I will find something that I really like, and I'll think, okay, I really like that, but they might not. The rest of you might not. Then I'll find something and I think, oh no, I need to know what you make of this so that you can explain it to me. So this is by Blake Morrison, and the poem is called Letter to His Betrothed. I will, if I remember correctly, I will write this down below. This is called Letter to His Betrothed, and I want to know what you make of it. A scribbler in this morning's Chronicle asks whether truth is permissible usage. Now both science and religion lay claim to it, and politicians can't be trusted not to lie. What cynical times we live in, my precious, but I can confound that scribbler directly by reporting that the sun has risen, that moths are hovering round the water butt, and that a horse is ploughing the meadow, Plain truths observable from my window, which, like my wish that we two be married, no philosopher on earth can dispute. My boat leaves from Liverpool a week tonight. When you appear at the dockside, will you wear that same bonnet from the portrait you sent? You look so comely in it, so sweet-tempered. It's not that I fear I won't recognize you. We have met once already, after all. What does that mean? Not on the demonic level. I know it's obvious tongue-in-cheek irony, and it's obvious that it's set, 150 years ago when horses plowed and when people sent portraits in the mail and met people at the dockside and whatnot. It's meant to be a historical piece. But am I right in guessing that Blake Morrison's sort of point in having the man say to his bride, to his betrothed, some things in life are eternally true. I can see these things out my window and know that they're true, and I know that we will be blissfully wed, that I want to wed you, even though it's only met her once. So you hear that. Would I be right in thinking that Blake Morrison is saying that truth shifts, that horses plowing outside a field or birds at a water butt don't exist anymore? They aren't true anymore, whereas once they did. And that by the same token, this guy's professions, his assumption of marital love, is almost certainly doomed. It is almost certainly not true either in any long-standing sense of the word true, even though he thinks it's true at the moment. Is that what this poem was meant to get, this smarty pants poem? Who is Blake Morrison? Is that what this poem is meant to get to? What did you make of it? I want to know. This is more an interrogatory Poetry Tuesday than usual. But that's going to be it for today. So I'll try to remember to do Poetry Tuesday next week. We'll do something a little bit less rabble-rousy. Thank you, BookTube.